On the 10th of June, the school opened its doors to the public and hosted a living library as part of Universities Week 2014, a campaign that aims to open up a national conversation about the relevance of university research and its everyday impact on our lives. Visitors browsed our 8 titles and borrowed school researchers for the evening to listen to their stories and discuss their current work. Chandy Nath headed down to talk to visitors and heard from some of the living books.
My name is Haleema Shakur. I'm a senior lecturer here at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I have a really interesting talk. We have a major interest in trauma patients and in bleeding. And as most trauma patients die from bleeding, we look for treatments that can improve outcomes for these patients.
What kind of scale of problem are we talking about? How many people are affected every year?
Oh, it's about 6 million people every year die from trauma. More people die of traumatic injuries than HIV, TB and malaria combined. And it's mostly our young men. And these young men are at the most productive stage of their lives. So these are people who are ready to give back to their communities, and this is the time they die. And they die very soon after injuries. So usually you have a very, very narrow window of opportunity to help them.
Why is it mainly young men?
Because young men are more likely to do dangerous occupation or dangerous sports, and also more likely to be involved in wars. What I'm going to be talking about today is a particular kind of trauma where they're likely to die from bleeding. And we've shown that there's a treatment that's been around for over 50 years. And this drug called tranexamic acid can stabilize the clot. If we give tranexamic acid within 3 hours of injury, you can reduce the risk of dying by a third.
What sort of costs are we looking at with tranexamic acid compared to other interventions?
It's a very cheap drug. It's about only £5. In the UK, the intervention's already taken up fully. I went recently to Nigeria, for example, and I interviewed doctors and asked them why they weren't using the treatment. And I think there are many reasons. First one is they don't believe the results apply to them. So it's changing behaviours. The fact that we might say the drug is cheap, it's only £5, but for a poor family, that's an awful lot of money. The ideal would be that we could make the drug freely available, that we have enough money for mass campaign to make sure every single doctor in the world get to know about this.
I think it's, a little bit more intimate. It's nice to have, that one-on-one contact with lecturers, and it's nice to be so close to faculty at the school.
Do you think you might take any action as a result of what you've heard tonight?
Yes, I'm definitely going to at least look for information in the doctors' groups I'm in, try and put information out there just so that people know that this is available. I mean, the whole environment, the way it's been set up, it's actually quite beautiful.
I'm Kathryn Mansfield. I work in the Department of Non-Communicable Disease Epidemiology. The title of my book is Decoding the Matrix. So what I've been talking about is this idea that we create data wherever we go. We can't not create data in the world that we live in. And more importantly, what I've spoken about is the data that we create when we visit our doctor. And whether or not the power we have to do great good by sharing that data in ways where we can work out why people get ill, and also the huge responsibility we have as researchers for having access to that data, and the idea that as patients we need to make an informed decision about whether or not we're prepared to share that data.
Big data, good or bad?
I don't know, very grey. It's neither black or white. There is great good, but there is also the possibility of great harm. A great good in that we can find out what makes people ill and why they're ill, and potential for great harm, because if people feel that their data is being shared in a way that they're not comfortable with and they feel that their confidentiality is being broken, then they might not go and see their doctor and they might therefore get unwell.
Who owns all this data?
There's a real conflict there. In the Data Protection Act, it is our data. As individuals, it is our data. However, In 2012, the Health and Social Care Act said that it had the power to do great good and should be uploaded to a central place where it could do so. And unfortunately, GPs have been left in a rather unpleasant and sticky position where they are trying to make sense of this conflict between their responsibility to the individual and their privacy, and the responsibility to the public as a whole and the health of the public as a whole. And that's really very difficult and something that I struggle with personally as a researcher using this type of data.
Do you think people are fully aware of what's happening to their data?
Not at all. In January this year, the NHS put out a mail shot with one small leaflet that explained this idea that we were due to upload all our data in March. So the leaflet came in as a mail shot with the piece of leaflets, and I was looking for it specifically because of the work I do, and I found it in a piece of leaflet, actually in a piece of leaflet. I've been read as a book twice this evening, and a very small percentage of my readers have remembered seeing the leaflet at all, and these are people who have specifically chosen to come and read me as a book about big data and health data specifically.
What have you learned about so far?
Which repellent to use against mosquitoes, and I've been to this session on C. difficile, so it's interesting to catch up with what research has been done.
I really enjoyed one of the talks which was about Ebola and sort of how that epidemic evolved, and that's made me think about global health in a different way.
So events like this help you get your message out to the public. How do you feel like the Living Library differs from the kind of standard talk that you give?
So just being able to have the opportunity to talk to the general public at events like this, and to allow us to simplify the message to make it more understandable, I think it's also important.
Have you enjoyed it?
It's been a bit scary. Yeah, there was a man taking notes, that was quite scary. But other than that, it's been really nice, and really fascinating to engage with some people who obviously were quite unaware and what I can do with their data.